Welcome back to Outdoor Adventure Training. My name is Mikey Bell, and today we're diving into this short, beginner-friendly routine designed to enhance stability through your core and spine. Bit of a life update. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, I took a pretty significant ski crash where I sustained significant trauma to my core and spinal region. I kind of shook it off like it wasn't anything and rolled right into new guide training with Shasta Mountain Guides just a couple days later, where I was carrying a 45-pound pack, sleeping in the snow, doing all the mountain guiding things. After that trip, it really wasn't healing the way I had hoped, so I went and got some imaging done, and unfortunately, I sustained a compression fracture to my T11 vertebrae, along with some deep abdominal and oblique bruising. While I am obviously super bummed to be missing the spring and early summer season, I have my eyes locked on some bigger objectives later in the summer and into fall. And during this rehabilitation process, I'm really focusing on what I can do rather than what I cannot do. Rehabilitation does not mean rest. It's all about active recovery and doing what you can to expedite the healing process in a safe and effective manner. Fortunately, I've been able to get out and do some light hiking and still keep at least a baseline of cardiovascular fitness. And I've been really heavily exploring what movements I can handle in the gym so I can still maintain and rebuild strength and stability. So when I do get cleared to get after it in the mountains, my body will be prepared for those demands. And regardless of whether or not you have a compression fracture in your spine, I promise you will still find value in these movements as they all directly translate to outdoor activities like hiking, running, backpacking, and skiing. As far as equipment goes, you're not going to need too many tools. Definitely have a mat handy, maybe a small box or a chair to sit on. And I am going to be utilizing resistance bands. So I have a resistance band rigged up to my garage door, and that's my favorite way to perform a couple of exercises that we'll be utilizing. If not, you can also use a door jamb mount, or we'll show you some other ways to get creative as well. So I'll open the Outdoor Adventure Training app and click on the core and spine stability reset routine. We're gonna do a bit of a dynamic warm-up. It's gonna look a little different. Some isometric loading, then one main circuit, and a nice cool down stretch. So we're doing everything with a lot of intentionality today, and I'm gonna be really mindful about how I move my spine, trying to maintain that neutral alignment. But we are starting off with a cat and cow. So on the inhale, I'm arching the back, and on the exhale, working on that spinal segmentation, moving each vertebrae independently. You might be wondering, how can I do this with a compression fracture? This actually feels amazing. I don't actually have a lot of pain on the bone, just a lot of tightness in the surrounding musculature. So this is a great way to get those muscles moving. And then we'll move slowly, setting up for our next dynamic stretch, a 90-90 hip rotation. So again, I'm really working on keeping my chest up, and I'm just gonna be dropping my hips side to side, pushing that knee down towards the floor. So my spine really isn't moving much. It's more my femur in that ball and socket joint of the hip, keeping the chest up. So this is a little bit of segmentation between the upper body and lower body, meaning I'm not moving my whole body when I'm doing this. I'm really trying to stay locked through the spine as I push those knees into the floor. Big stretch to the external rotators. Good way to warm up the hips. And then we'll be coming up next, we're gonna be doing some controlled articular rotation through the hip. I'm gonna grab a ski pole here, because it's the only time I get to use one these days, but that won't last too long. So I'm gonna work on all the ranges of motion of the hip. I'm gonna start with hip flexion, external rotation, hip extension, get a little internal rotation, back to flexion. Then we can reverse it. So I can go hip extension, external rotation, coming out wide, back into internal rotation, So I'm really working on core engagement here as I move that hip the best I can through its range of motion. Turns out any single leg exercise is a great way to improve that core and spine stability. Play around with different ranges of motion. So I'm deep external rotation, and then I'm working on some deeper external rotation and internal rotation as I'm abducted. Really, it doesn't matter too much what you do, just trying to get you to balance and independently move that hip joint. We'll switch over to the other leg. I also just snuck in a 60-second balance on one leg. Although I am doing this supported, I do find that with this movement in particular, I like to have a little additional support simply because my goal is this controlled articular rotation. And again, don't compensate through the body. Really focused on breathing lately, some diaphragmatic breathing, which we'll talk about in this routine today. Great way to build control and strength and stability through all those muscles that connect to the thoracic spine. That T11 vertebrae is certainly not necessarily lower back, but it's on the very bottom end, T11, then T12, then L1. So it's mid lower back right in here, which is really key for stabilization through the whole core. So we're going to be doing a little bit more single leg balancing. We'll show you some diversity here. I'm going to start on my right leg. We're just doing a little bit of an isometric load with some intention of really maintaining the spinal alignment. Core is engaged. I'm bent through the ankle, knee, and hip. And I'm not overarching through the back. I see this a lot with people trying to stabilize and maintain good posture. It's actually a drawing in through the abdominals, squeezing that glute, creating that counter pressure, staying low and balanced, just 30 seconds here. Nice, and we'll switch to the other leg. Of course, this is really simple, but it's a good assessment to see where you're at with your stability and your balance. I'm gonna go left leg next, bent through the ankle, knee, and hip. Staying low, again, not overarching, that drawing in through the core, staying low. So the beautiful thing about a lot of these movements is we can still get amazing activation through the lower body, low impact through the back. And strengthening those glutes, hamstrings, and even quads can help alleviate tension through the spine. So we're not asking so much of it because we have a robust system of muscles all working together. Now, I am going to add a little bit of resistance, which is totally safe, especially because the weight is elevated off the ground. I don't have to bend over. And all I'm doing here is I'm just gonna hold this on one side, which naturally wants to pull me. So I need to counter rotate, maintain stability. I'm right back on that left leg. And this, I gotta be really mindful here of not letting it pull me this way because that could cause pain and just imbalance. I'm really being diligent about staying square in all planes of motion here. Staying low and loaded, getting those legs firing. Nice. Through this whole process, I've learned that there are a lot of movements we can do that are friendly to the back and beneficial. And sometimes after routines like this, my back feels so much better, which is amazing. I think too many people, we're switching legs here, get injured and think I just need to rest. And that might be good for the first week or maybe even just 3 days, but we gotta keep moving. If nothing else, to maintain the habit so when we are healthy, we can get back to it, but we can also significantly expedite the recovery and rehab process by intentionally building strength and stability in safe ways. Nice job. Coming out of it. I'm gonna rack up the weight. That's totally optional. We're gonna be getting on the floor to start off. We have a few different exercises. We're doing a glute bridge, classic. We're gonna do it with more intentionality. Bird dog, pal off press, seated band row. But we'll start with this glute bridge. So just laying down, supine position, heels are in tight, pressing those hips up, squeezing the glutes. I'm gonna hang out in this top range of motion for a minute here, maybe not the full minute, but I'm working on this posterior pelvic tilt, meaning I'm not overarching through the back. Again, that counter pressure, I'm drawing in, embracing hard through the core while I'm squeezing those glutes and pressing the hips up. And if you need a break, you can come down for just a second. This is where we can explore some of that diaphragmatic breathing of big inhale and really feeling the expansion, both front to back and side to side. Forcing that air out and squeezing, contracting. We're working on this anti-rotational strength, which we will explore in the next round. We're going through all these exercises twice. I'm gonna just roll over into the prone position, hands and knees. We're going right into bird dog. Okay, this is a really simple exercise that you could mindlessly go through like this and have no benefit at all, but I'm really maintaining this neutral pelvis and spine, and I'm slowly extending one arm, one leg. I'm really trying to squeeze that hip, making sure I'm not opening up, staying square to the floor. Set it down, replace it to the other side. Another anti-rotational movement. Rotation is my biggest pain point right now, which I've been working on through myofascial release and stretching, various stretching techniques. But these anti-rotation exercises feel amazing because it requires a lot of deep core activation through the erector spinae, multifidus, quadratus laborum, internal, external obliques, all of the fun tongue twisters. Okay, next we're gonna need our band. I have one rigged up over here. This is light to moderate intensity, and we're doing a pal off press. So first, I'm keeping this handle right in line with my sternum, that posterior pelvic tilt, meaning my hips aren't back, I'm tucking them forward, and I'm just very slowly extending my arms out, slowly bringing them in. The only motion is through my elbows. I'm not hunching through the shoulders. Shoulders are down and back. Again, pelvis is tucked forward. You're really gonna feel this through the oblique and the abdominals. You can certainly do this with a cable machine too. Anything that's pulling you away. It doesn't have to be a fancy band with a handle. Any sort of resistance band, holding it in any way, so long as we're locked. So I'm gonna switch sides here. Again, everything wants to go this way. That posterior pelvic tilt, locking in through the glute and oblique. Those systems work together. And then nice, slow, controlled range of motion. This is all about quality over quantity, especially in a stability workout with a slow repetition tempo. I've been doing these a lot lately. You can absolutely do these seated as well. If these are too intense, just in the last 2 weeks, I've graduated to the standing version. Great job. I am gonna grab my box, bench, chair, whatever you have to sit on. We're gonna get set up for a seated band row. And you might think, how the heck are you gonna do rows with a broken back? Well, I'll show you. So I'm just gonna find a nice spot to sit, shoulders down and back, and I'm really, again, not overarching, drawing in through the abdominals. I can still think about that posterior pelvic tilt. Even just right here, I feel incredible core and back engagement. And if it feels right, we can roll those shoulders down and back, squeezing the shoulder blades together, slowly releasing. Here we're hitting latissimus dorsi, mid-lower trapezius, rhomboids. Even a little bit of posterior deltoid and bicep. Core is engaged. Notice I'm moving very slowly and methodically, rolling those shoulders back, really getting good activation, letting it out super slow. Nice work. We'll take a longer rest and we'll get ready to go through that circuit one last time. You could also do TRX rows, or I wouldn't recommend a bent over row with a dumbbell if you're dealing with any spinal instabilities, but that could be another great option down the road. But really that exercise is all about activating that upper back. We need back musculature strength to help stabilize the spine. We're getting ready for our glute bridge next. We'll mix things up a little bit, add a little bit more anti-rotation here. So I'm gonna come up and assume my glute bridge position, posterior pelvic tilt, drawing in, bracing through the abdominals. Now, if it feels right and you want the challenge, we can explore just slowly releasing one foot. We don't need to do a full-fledged single leg glute bridge, but just a little bit at a time here. You can even explore with bringing that knee up towards your chest, somewhat of a glute bridge crunch. But the key, you have to be able to maintain a solid spine through this whole thing. Really fortunate that going into this injury, had a lot of prehab strength from all the fun workouts I've been doing with you all, plus big outdoor adventures. I would say I went into this injury maybe the strongest I've ever felt in the mountains, which is great. It's unfortunate, but I really wouldn't want to have it any other way. We're gonna roll over and we'll get into our bird dog. I'm gonna try to hold those top ranges of motion for just a little bit longer this time. So again, I'm not overarching, posterior pelvic tilt, slow extension, trying to get that arm up to the ear, hip up high, or leg up high rather. Hip should stay neutral. Focused on the core. And when I say core, I don't just mean your abdominals. It's your obliques, it's your lower back, it's your glutes, it's your hip flexors. Everything in that lumbo-pelvic hip region. Big breaths. I notice when I start to get a little overarched, that lower back or erector spinae will start to seize up and tighten up a little bit. Got to be really mindful of keeping those abdominals engaged. Palloff pressed is next. Shoulders down and back. Slowly extending. You can even hold this for a second. You can do little micro circles if that feels good. Just do not compromise that posterior pelvic tilt and that core engagement. A lot of work through the glute in the direction the band is pulling you from. If you really want a little challenge, we can explore single leg Palloff press. Keeping that core super tight. That's a fun variation I've been exploring in just the last few days. Feels good. And I found that I can get super creative as long as those main principles are being met with the core engagement, neutral spine, glutes engaged. I can do just about anything that's minimal weight bearing. Obviously still no heavy lifting, no running, nothing where a fall would be catastrophic. Luckily I've been able to get back on the spin bike quite a bit and the road bike on the easy bike path. Those both feel great. Finding all those little things to do during recovery, even the small things, make a huge difference. You can keep the stoke high. Just keep the motivation up, ultimately. We're done with that one. Getting ready for the seated band row. Get your seat set up. Grab your bands. I'll sit here. I'm not going to change anything here. Just that little bit of posterior pelvic tilt. Core is engaged. Rowing it back. Slowly letting it out. You can also explore palms together and then keep those elbows sliding right along the rib cage. I wouldn't say one is better than the other, just a little different. You might be able to get a little deeper range of motion in this position. You can even go somewhere in between, a little bit of a 45-degree angle. Nice job. We'll come out of that slowly. That's it for our circuits, and we're going to get into a little bit of a cool down stretch that should help open up the spine and lower back even more. I know it might not seem like much, but hopefully you're feeling core, glute engagement, even if it's subtle. Part of it is reprogramming our brain to fire and move in these patterns. So when you're out on the trail, mile 10, hour 12, whatever it is, you've been out there a long time, we want these to be our default patterns, not sloppy with no core engagement. We're getting into a puppy stretch next, puppy pose. So my hips are over my knees, my arms are out overhead, up on the fingertips. And I'm really gonna focus on breathing. So big inhale. Slowly let it out. We don't want to overarch through the back again. Think that subtle posterior pelvic tilt. Deep stretch through the lats. I even feel it on the right oblique where I sustained all that trauma. The breath is the best way to work through that tension and resistance. Nice job. We'll come out of that slowly. We're going to roll onto our backs into that supine position. We're going to do some fun stuff, moving the hips and the knees. So I'm going to start with my left leg, and we're doing an active knee hug. So I'm just bringing my knee in towards my chest, and I'm going to grab behind the shin. If you can't grab behind the shin, you can grab behind the hamstring as well. But I'm gonna get active with this. So I'm gonna try to move that hip through its subtle ranges of motion. So I can take a big inhale, and then on the exhale, I can try to draw it even deeper into my chest. So we're stretching out the hamstring, but we're also working on really deep hip flexion. There can be a lot of tension in those hips, and ultimately we're getting ready for our next stretch, which is a supine spinal twist. So I'm just gonna let this knee and somewhat guide it over all the way to the side, bringing my arms out to a T. I gotta be really gentle getting in and out of this one. Again, that rotation is tough for me right now. My knee isn't touching the ground, my shoulder isn't touching the ground, and that's totally okay. Just looking for a deep stretch through this whole lateral chain into the lower back, those erector spinae, the obliques. This is more of a passive stretch, just letting gravity take over. Open up those tissues. Then we'll slowly come out of this. I'm going to use that hand to guide it back up. And then we'll switch to the other side for our last two stretches here. Leg is extended. I'm going to start with that active supine knee hug. Again, you can get active here, kind of explore those deepest ranges of motion. There's a lot of tension in there for me personally. Have also been doing a lot of hip opening stretches, Deep lunge stretches, couch stretch, those all feel really good and essential. A lot of times lower back tightness is simply a cause or a result of overactive hip flexors. So if we can open up those hips, it will inevitably help our movement patterns and our lower back. And now for our final stretch, I'm going to guide that knee over carefully and gently. This is the tighter side for me for sure. My inclination is to clench up and stop breathing. You gotta be really mindful to do just the opposite. Deep breaths. Relax your face. Let that core open up. Nice job coming out of these deep stretches. Make sure it's done slowly and mindfully. I like to use my hands and my arms to guide myself and bring myself back up. Thank you so much for joining me today. You all are keeping me motivated to keep me going on my recovery journey. And whether or not you're rehabbing an injury, stay on the grind. It's worth it. Keep building that strength and stability so you can show up as your best self on any trail, on any given day. Really, that's what we're all about at OAT, is supporting you and maximizing your adventures. If you need more guidance, more support, want to talk to me about your goals, I love hearing about it. Book a consultation with me. There's a link in the description below to do so. Thank you all so much for being a part of the Outdoor Adventure Training community. We'll see you soon.